She looked me straight in the eye, holding a baby I knew wasn't mine, and still said, "I love you." That was the moment I stopped being her husband and became something colder. But what happened after the DNA test came back? That's what shattered everything. You might be wondering, how did I know for sure? Stay with me until the end to find out. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where we tell the rawest, most painful stories about broken trust and the choices that follow. Tell me, where are you listening from today? And if you've ever put your faith in someone who betrayed it, drop a dot in the comments. You're not alone. Thank you for being here. If this story speaks to your heart, hit subscribe so you won't miss what's next. Now, take a deep breath and follow me into the story that changed my life forever. Hey, I'm Ethan Whitmore. I'm 44 years old. And last month I stood in the maternity ward watching my wife cradle a newborn that wasn't mine. She looked peaceful, too peaceful. Wrapped in soft pink blankets, the baby nestled into her arms, and for a second I almost let myself believe. But I couldn't, because I knew the truth. And that truth didn't leave room for fantasy. Haley beamed up at me like everything was perfect. Her mother, Connie, stood to one side, eyes sparkling with pride. My mom, Margaret, was on the other, quiet, tight-lipped, reading me like a soldier scans a battlefield. I hadn't stepped forward. I hadn't touched the baby. A nurse walked in, holding a clipboard, cheerful. "Mr. Whitmore, we'll need you to fill out the birth certificate." My voice didn't rise. My hands didn't shake. I looked at her and said, "We'll complete it once the paternity test confirms I'm the father." Everything froze. Haley's face dropped. The smile died. The baby stirred. "What?" she gasped. "Ethan, what are you saying?" Connie reached for her chest, already on the edge of outrage. "You can't be serious." "Not now. She just gave birth." My mother didn't speak, but I could feel her standing taller beside me. Haley's voice cracked. "You're accusing me of cheating." In this moment, I didn't blink. "No," I said, slow and clear. "I'm not accusing you. I know." The silence in that room could have shattered glass. Connie sputtered something. Haley's breathing quickened, and the nurse. She just backed quietly out of the room, leaving us suspended in a moment none of us could undo. But I didn't flinch. I had lived through months of doubt, silence, and a growing ache in my chest every time she looked at me like nothing had happened. Now I stood still, calm, firm, and I said nothing more. Back then, before all the lies, there was only the light in her eyes. It was the fall festival of 2008. I was 27, a little too serious, buried in my engineering work, barely looking up long enough to notice life happening around me. But that day, Haley walked into my world, wearing a red ribbon in her hair, holding a cup of cider, and laughing like the world hadn't hurt her yet. She bumped into me near the caramel apple stand, literally. Sticky cider spilled on both of us. I apologized, flustered. She smiled, amused. "It's okay," she said. "Now we're bonded by sugar and embarrassment." I laughed. Really laughed, maybe for the first time that year. We spent the rest of that afternoon walking through hay bales, tasting pies, and sharing stories we probably had no business telling so soon. But with her, it felt easy. That's the thing. People forget about falling in love. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just sitting in the grass with someone who asks about your childhood and actually listens. Haley had that quiet way of looking at me that made everything I said feel important. She made the world softer. She made me softer. We got married in the spring of 2013. Nothing extravagant, just close friends, folding chairs, and vows whispered under a wind-charmed tree. I built our home in Springfield, Georgia, literally. I designed it from the ground up, every corner planned, every beam placed by hand. I wanted something that would last. At the time, I thought we would. The first few years were warm and steady. Quiet dinners, road trips, lazy Sunday mornings with records spinning in the background. We even planted a lemon tree in the backyard. Haley said it reminded her of her grandmother's house. That was before the cracks began to show. Looking back, it's easy to point to moments I missed. Little shifts in her tone, sudden distance, a different kind of quiet. But when you're in love, you explain things away. You want to believe. You need to believe. And for a while I did. I remember the first time doubt crept in. It was a Wednesday. Haley was late coming home from school. She said she had a meeting with a parent that ran long. I believed her. But the next morning, I saw her phone screen light up before sunrise. Travis Cole, a name I hadn't heard before. She flipped the phone over fast like reflex. I didn't ask. I told myself not to be that kind of husband, the kind who snoops, who doubts without proof. But it stuck with me, like a song I didn't like playing on repeat in my mind. Weeks passed, then months. She was colder, quieter, sometimes too affectionate, like she was overcompensating. She stopped singing in the kitchen. She stopped wearing her red ribbon. One night, I found a message she forgot to delete. Just a single line, "He can never know. I don't want anything to do with you anymore." My stomach dropped. I felt like I was underwater hearing the world through muffled echoes. I took a screenshot, sent it to myself, then I deleted it from her phone. That same week, she told me she was pregnant. The timing didn't fit. Not with my work trips, not with what I remembered. I did the math 3 times in my head. Still didn't add up. But I didn't say anything. I just smiled and said, "That's wonderful." You might think I should have confronted her right then. But if you've ever truly loved someone, you know there's a moment when pain is easier than truth. I spent the next few months pretending. I held her hand at the doctor's office. I painted the nursery light yellow. I told my mom. I told my friends. I didn't tell them I cried in the garage alone staring at the lemon tree that was starting to rot. I told myself I was doing the right thing for her, for the baby, for the life we'd built. But I wasn't. I was buying time, waiting for the day the truth would be born, screaming pink and undeniable. The room smelled like antiseptic and baby powder. Haley cradled the newborn, her fingers tracing circles on the baby's back. Connie hovered nearby, fussing with a swaddle. My mom sat in the corner, arms crossed, saying nothing, but I could feel the heat in her silence. I stood at the edge of the room, watching it all. I hadn't held the baby. I hadn't stepped closer. Then the nurse returned with the birth certificate papers, smiling like it was just another joyful routine. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "we'll just need your signature right here." I didn't move. My hands stayed at my sides. "I won't be signing anything," I said. Connie spun around. "Excuse me, I asked for a paternity test." I continued, "And until we have those results, I'm not putting my name on anything." The air turned razor sharp. Haley's voice broke. "Ethan, don't do this. Not here. Not now." Her eyes searched my face, desperate, frightened, but I didn't flinch. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshot, read her message aloud, word for word. "He can never know. I don't want anything to do with you anymore." Haley's breath caught. Her arms tightened around the baby. "What is that?" Connie barked. "You know what it is," I said. "It's why I haven't touched that child. It's why I haven't looked at you the same in months." Haley shook her head, tears already spilling. Ethan, I was going to tell you. I wrote a letter. I left it on the dresser the night before my due date. Connie gasped, then snapped. I threw it out. I thought it was just drama. She was emotional. You didn't what? Connie, my mother, finally snapped. Didn't think he deserved the truth. Margaret rose from her seat, voice low but sharp. You let him walk into this hospital blind. The room spiraled. Words flew. Haley sobbed. Connie defended. My mother stared daggers. The nurse quietly slipped out again. But I stood in the eye of the storm. There was no screaming from me. No revenge. Just the stillness of a man who's already grieved, already buried what mattered. And the man left standing wasn't the same one who'd built her a house in Georgia. The results came 3 days later. A thin white envelope delivered by courier. No ceremony, no warning, just truth, folded into silence. I opened it in the garage, the same place I'd cried months earlier, next to the lemon tree I once watered with care. One line was all I needed to see. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I read it again, then again. The words didn't change. The universe didn't shift. The world stayed quiet, like it had been waiting for me to catch up. I walked back inside and placed the envelope on the kitchen table. Haley was nursing the baby. She looked up when I came in, but her face didn't ask any questions. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she didn't need to. I saw the results, I said. She blinked, but didn't cry. Ethan, I'm not angry, I said, though my voice cracked a little. I'm just done. Her lips parted, like she wanted to beg, to explain, to plead, but no sound came out. And for once, she didn't fight. Maybe that was her way of apologizing. Or maybe she was just tired of lying. I slept on the couch that night, and the next night, and the one after that. By the end of the week, I'd packed 2 duffel bags, moved into a short-term rental down the street, still in Springfield, still close enough to see the lemon tree from the sidewalk if I really wanted to. People always talk about the explosion, the moment everything falls apart. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes it's just a quiet closing of a door, a toothbrush left behind, a drawer that no longer opens. That week, my mother brought me soup. Connie never called. Haley sent one text. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you like this. I never replied. Because sometimes silence says what words can't. I never wanted to be a father out of pity. But there I was, staring at a family court document with my name on it, asking me to choose, take responsibility, or walk away completely. She needs a name on the birth certificate, Haley had said weeks earlier when we met one last time in a coffee shop downtown. It doesn't have to be yours, but she needs something. I looked at the little girl in the car seat beside her. She had Haley's eyes, not mine. Still, I had held her once, just once. The day I moved out, Haley had placed her in my arms with trembling fingers. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it changed something. Not everything in me, just a crack in the cold. My lawyer said I had no legal obligation. The biological father, whoever he was, hadn't come forward. He might never. And I could simply disappear. But that word echoed in my chest. Disappear. What does it mean to disappear from a child's life when you were never really in it to begin with? What does it mean to know you could offer something, even if it isn't biology? I wrestled with it. I thought about my own father, how he left when I was 6, how silence grew in his absence like mold on a forgotten wall. I remembered birthdays with empty chairs, letters that never came, a man who became more ghost than memory. I didn't want to be that, but I also didn't want to be a replacement, a shadow of truth. Haley texted once more. You can visit her. No pressure. Just see her sometimes. I stood outside their house that weekend. Lemon blossoms floated on the wind. I never knocked, because part of me still loved Haley, and part of me didn't trust myself not to. So I chose to step back, not to punish, not to escape, but because staying half present would hurt more than leaving. It was nearly 4 months later when I got the call, a number I didn't recognize, a voice I didn't expect. Is this Ethan Whitmore? Yes. My name is Marcus Ellington. I think we need to talk. About Haley. I froze. That name Ellington sounded familiar in the way a dream does just before it slips from memory. We agreed to meet at a small diner off Route 21, the kind of place with faded booths and refillable coffee. He was already there when I arrived, tall, maybe mid-30s, quiet posture eyes, like someone who's had to bury too many truths. I'm not here to make a scene, Marcus began. But I believe I'm the biological father of the baby. My jaw clenched. You believe he slid a folded paper across the table, a paternity test, not government-issued but privately done, dated 2 weeks earlier. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. I stared at it cold, spreading through my chest. She never told me she was pregnant, Marcus said. We weren't even supposed to keep seeing each other. I was married. Still am. Of course he was. Then why now, I asked. He sighed. Because I saw her last week at the grocery store with the baby. And I knew. His eyes glistened, but he kept them steady. I made mistakes. But that little girl, she's still my blood. Something inside me shifted again. Not pain. Not jealousy. Something quieter. Resignation, maybe. Or relief. I had been haunted by questions I couldn't answer. Now someone had stepped into the fog with a flashlight. Marcus asked if I would speak to Haley, see if she'd allow contact. I didn't promise. I didn't owe anyone anything, but I gave him my number. When I walked out of that diner, the sky was overcast. The wind carried the scent of rain and something else, maybe forgiveness, waiting just down the road. 2 weeks later, Haley called. Her voice was softer than I remembered, not broken, just quiet. I met with Marcus, she said. He held her. He cried. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe something I did ended right. I didn't say much, just listened. I know I hurt you, she continued. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But if you have any left in you, even a little, I'd be grateful. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a muscle. And mine was tired. But in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't a story about betrayal. Not entirely. It was a story about what people do when they're afraid. When they lie, not to hurt others, but to survive themselves. When love becomes a battlefield of silence and missteps. I didn't say I forgave her. Not right away. But I did say, thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you for telling me the truth, late as it was. That weekend I walked past the old house again. The lemon tree had begun to blossom bright yellow against a pale blue sky. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel the sting of memory. I just felt peace. Sometimes you don't get the closure you want. You get something better. Clarity. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that love doesn't always come with clarity, but pain usually does. We want love to be clean, predictable, fair. But it isn't. Love is messy. And sometimes the people who once made us feel safest end up hurting us the most. But what we do after the hurt, that's where the real story begins. Forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's about refusing to let their choices define your peace. It's about choosing freedom over fury. If you've ever been betrayed, I want you to hear me. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every crack in your heart is a place where light can still get in. And even if someone tried to rewrite your story, you still hold the pen now. So write the ending you deserve. Let go not for them, but for yourself. So you can sleep again. So you can breathe again. So you can love again. If this story moved you in any way, if it made you reflect or feel less alone, please give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Vows and Betrayals for more true stories that reach where words often can't. We're just getting started.